My name is Linda Magoon, and I am the author of Live Free and Hike, Finding Grace on 48 Summits. And the title is a nod to the New Hampshire state motto, which is live free and die. And in my case, I used it to title my book to symbolize the fact that I left an abusive relationship very late in life, in my mid 50s, and set a goal to hike these 48 mountains in New Hampshire that are 4,000 feet and higher. So hiking these is kind of a thing like hiking the Pacific Crest Trail or the Appalachian Trail. If you complete your goal, you get a little patch and a little certificate suitable for framing. And after my divorce and found my freedom, I rediscovered my love for hiking and set about to write a book for others who are in a similar situation to learn from what I was doing. Hiking to Heal took on a brand new meaning, though, when I discovered that my husband had been arrested for some pretty unspeakable crimes, some of which he committed while we were still married. So the book is a little bit of memoir, a little bit of self-help, the Finding Grace on 48 Summits. I'm just going to leave that as a cliffhanger, and you can read all about that. And what was crucial for my success in the writing process was that I had two amazing critique and accountability partners who helped me get that first draft in such a manner that I could send it off to book launchers or content editor and feel good about it. I mean, it was just an amazing experience to finish that first draft. It was almost like childbirth. It was so exciting to type the end. Where book launchers came in for me was the second and third legs of the stool, the publishing process and the marketing. I had a publishing contract. I had submitted my manuscript to a publisher. I had a publishing contract in my inbox. And what happened is that I don't know if the owner of the publishing company was having a bad day or I was having a bad day. But when we talked about it, when we connected to talk about it, we just weren't on the same wavelength. I felt that my questions weren't being answered respectfully. I felt this was a relationship in which they were superior and I was almost inferior. And I felt my chest tightening. And I thought, wait a minute, this is what I was married to. I was divorced enough now, and I knew what a controlling relationship looked like. I was like, I'm not signing up for this. And so that's why I signed up for book launchers. In the relationship between the author and the book launcher staff, your business partners, you're on the same level. They will walk you through step by step what you need to do to publish and market your book. And you really need all three legs of that stool in order for your book to be successful and to be out in the world. So I thought of us as partners. We all had the same goal, and there wasn't this like master-slave relationship where I was working for them. That was instrumental to having the book launch. I set out to write this book initially. It was initially meant to be funny about this woman in her mid-50s who goes hiking, and on one summit, my pants almost get blown off. On another summit, I get lost, and it was meant to be funny. And there are funny parts in it, to be sure, but it definitely took a different turn, as your readers may know. What I would do differently is I like the outlining idea, and I would build all three legs of the stool at the same time. So I would be working on the marketing piece. At the same time, I would be writing my draft because they really do intertwine. And that's what I plan on doing with my second book. My first book is about hiking, and you don't have to be a hiker to like it because there's many other life lessons to be learned. But what I'm finding in my marketing is that hikers like to read stories about other hikers who've died. So if you haven't died or aren't part of a search and rescue, then it's kind of, it's okay. I find that my book resonates more with women, especially have left or are in abusive relationships, and women in midlife. So my second book is going to be about a true story in the White Mountains where people die. It's a plane crash, and it's a story about survival and about resilience, which resonates with the theme of my current book. So what I would do differently is definitely work on all three legs of the stool at the same time and not be so laser focused on the draft and say, oh, I've got to sell this thing. Oh, I'd never thought of that before. I think I have to echo, I think it was Stan's comments about the pre-launch. I mean, I think that was so important. And I had no idea of the work involved in a pre-launch of getting your book army together, getting your book army poised to not only buy, but to think about reviews, about the Goodreads giveaway. I had no idea about the work that went in with that pre-launch. What made that ALA conference so exciting was that my book launched, I think, a week earlier. And then a week later, my daughter had her first baby. So that was kind of a crazy time in mid-June between the launch, the ALA conference, and being a grandmother. So that was pretty cool. But after that honeymoon period, after that bubble of pre-launch and launch, I think what I've learned the most is that I think, Julie, you said to be persistent, but my mantra is you reap what you sow, what you sow, what you sow, what you sow. And so I try to do something every day that has to do with marketing, whether it's posting on social media or reaching out to a library or to a bookstore for a speaking engagement. I try to sow that garden every single day. For me, I like speaking engagements. I don't mind being in front of an audience. Most of the time you can squeeze a little stipend or get paid for that. That's a bonus. But I really love selling my books at these speaking engagements because it allows for a connection to my audience. People like it when you sign a book. It means something to them. And I also like hearing their stories because there's a reason why they're buying your book. And I just like that opportunity to make a connection. So I don't have a fancy package like Max does, but what I'm doing now for marketing is that for my book talks, I've created a little bookmark, and one side of it is going to have the title, and I have like the 10 hiking essentials for keeping safe, like, carrying a map and a compass and a flashlight and matches and that type of thing. And on the other side, I have 10 essentials for healing, and it spells the mnemonic nature walk. It shares some of the things we've talked about today about going for a walk, eating well, asking for help. And there's also a QR code that goes to my website. So if you're at a talk and you're kind of sitting on the fence about the book, well, at least you can take the bookmark with you. And if you decide to buy it later, there's the link to my website. If you don't want to buy the book, that's fine, but at least take a bookmark. And I feel like a part of me is putting out some good into the world in terms of either staying safe in the woods or providing some advice or some tips for some self-help. So try new things, be persistent. You reap what you sow, what you sow, what you sow, and do something that excites you and that you like to do. I researched book launchers, and I just kept going back to book launchers. It just was an ideal fit for me, and their staff is very dedicated, and I found them very responsive. It was a positive experience for me.